try to remember. But when everything is coming back to me, I feel as if my memory is paralyzed.
Now let's see. What is the last thing you can remember?
I don't know.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to our weekly investor forum. Today we'll have our very own Gary Peart, Executive Chairman of Supreme Ventures Limited. Yes, I did say that, Executive Chairman of Supreme Ventures. And Solomon Sharp, Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited. We encourage our viewers to post their questions on social media and remember to tag us with the hashtag #MILInvestorForum. If you enjoyed this program, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll also be featuring a market segment on foreign exchange, so be sure to stick around until the end of the program. Supreme Ventures Group's main activities comprise betting, gaming, and lottery operations. The company currently operates through segments such as gaming and hospitality, sports betting, horse racing, and PIN codes. In 2019, SVL expanded its network to Guyana under its iBet Supreme brand. As of January 2020, the company has formally taken control of Champion Gaming Limited. This is following the completion of its acquisition of the Jamaica-based gaming company, which has over 1,200 machines in the Route Video Lounge terminal business in Jamaica. SVL has not slowed down since. In March 2021, the company announced its partnership with the Jamaica Olympic Association. This collaboration aims to develop sports and athletes in Jamaica. The deal pledges support for the association over 3 years to the tune of $45 million. I take this moment to remind you that if you're seeking to expand your portfolio or embark on your very first investment journey, Mayberry Investments can guide you in achieving your financial goals. Follow us on social media and visit us at our website, www.mayberryinv.com, to learn more. Our social media handles should pop up somewhere on the screen. Now let's introduce our guest for this evening. As I said, over the years, Gary Peart has worn many hats in the business sector. He happens to be a director on several boards, namely Iron Rock Insurance Company, Mayberry Investments Limited, of course, and Supreme Ventures, just to name a few. To date, he has over 20 years' experience in corporate finance and was named top CEO in 2015. Mr. Peart joined Supreme Ventures Limited as the executive chairman in March 2020, 1 year ago, 1 year and 2 months. Also, our guest for this evening also will be Mr. Solomon Sharp. Solomon holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration with a specialty in management and sports management. After a successful stint at D&G, he went on to dabble in small production projects that eventually inspired the birth of Main Event Entertainment Group. With his experience as a display and sponsorship manager at D&G, known today as Red Stripe, he was able to create a single vendor to supply the necessary services for the executions in the entertainment space. Of course, he's also chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited. Both Mr. Peart and Mr. Sharp will be giving us an investor briefing today. Welcome, Solomon.
Thank you, Dan.
Welcome, Gary, and online also welcome Chairman Barry.
Good afternoon, guys.
Okay, so we'd like to jump straight into the first presentation we have today. I think it's going to come from you, Sala.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, from Gary. Gary, I think you have something to present to us on Supreme Ventures.
Yes. To put the presentation up. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, viewers in cyberspace, online, etc. A very simple presentation, 2 slides. You know, I don't think many people truly understand the breadth of the SVL group. Over the years, most people think SVL is just a lottery company that does cashpot. This first slide actually shows the organizational structure in terms of the companies that comprise the SVL group. As you may or may not know, SVL is the only gaming company of its type in the world, in that they currently participate in every single segment of gaming. So lottery, which everybody knows, within the lottery sector, we have 11 products. Sports betting, we have 2 different types of companies in sports betting: Just Bet, that deals in transactions, and Any Bet, which is more a relationship type structure. We have gaming lounges, primarily Acropolis. We're also involved in the VLT business via Supreme Routes. And we also are in horse racing, which is Cayman Track, of which Solomon, who's here this afternoon, is the chairman of. Within Jamaica, we have that space and those different lines of business. And as Dan indicated, we're also in Guyana, where we have also rolled out that different suite of products. So the company continues to diversify. Dan spoke to earlier the acquisition of 51%, which we moved to 80% of post-to-post, which is sports betting business. We'll purchase 51% of Champion Gaming, which is a machine business. And recently, in the start of this year, we bought 51% of a microfinance business called Michaelia, which is a traditional microfinance business. And then later on in February, we rolled out an exciting product, which is called Evolve, which is one of a kind. It is a microfinance business, but it is totally digital and automated. And so we continue down the path of expanding the group. And recently, as recently as Friday, we made another investment in Main Event, 10% investment in Main Event. And again, that's also a type of backward integration, because entertainment is a key part of the gaming industry. So that gives you a breadth of what SVL Group is about. And then the next slide also shows that SVL is not a business traditionally that just sits and doesn't just sits on one product. You'd have seen that at inception, we launched a cashpot. Over the years, we have continued to look at the marketplace, and we've been introducing different games that we think our players would like and appreciate. And you will see the time series there and the products that we've put in place: Pick 2, Pick 3, Pick 5, Top Draw, most recently, Hot Pick. So we actually have 11 different gaming products, 11 different lottery products spanning from 1-ball to 6-ball lotteries. And on top of that, we also are in the pin business, where we're the largest seller of top-ups, phone top-ups in the country. So again, the group spans a lot of different businesses, a lot of different places, etc. So I know, as I said, I know most people think we're just a cashpot business, but that's the furthest thing from the truth. And what it shows is that we have a team that is constantly innovating, certainly on the product side, and then also our M&A team that is looking and finding opportunities to expand our different businesses. So I thought it would be important for this briefing just to give you that background, and it shows how broad and big the SVL group is. So Dan, if you have any questions, I can launch off from here.
Thank you, Gary. We will definitely have some questions for you and for Solomon. But before, I'd like to give a financial analyst perspective on SVL. So I have 3 slides just looking at the numbers that I'd asked the guys to bring up. So first one is just to look at how this stock has traded over the last 2 years in particular. And what you'll note is while it closes today at $17.77, the stock in the last year has had a high of $19 and a low of $12. I'd like to remind folks that this stock has actually traded as high as $34 in the last 2 years. It's traded at $25 at huge volume. And one of the things I like about Supreme Ventures, why it has to be in anybody's top 10 pick, is because it's a stock that trades with significant volume. So for the big buyers out there looking to spend 10 or 20 or $30 million, this stock has that kind of liquidity. Second thing I like about SVL is it's perhaps the second best dividend yielding stock in the market. So if you bought yourself some SVL at $15, you would be averaging a 4 to 5% dividend yield, and it really doesn't get much better than that. Carreras, in fact, is the only other stock that pays a higher dividend yield than SVL. So again, a stock that's traded with good volume at up to $25. I personally think in the next 12 months, I'd like to see it back in that space. While the PE looks a bit higher on this chart, the adjusted EPS really is about $1, and if you use an adjusted EPS of $1, you'll see that it's trading at about 17 times, which is pretty consistent with the market. And it's a market cap of $46 billion, which makes the stock really a top 10 stock in the market in terms of size. On the next slide, jumping into the numbers a little bit, they have $14 billion in assets, $4 billion in equity. Again, a company that consistently has been paying about $2 billion in dividends per year for the last 2 to 3 years, and I don't see that changing, quite frankly. When we look at the first quarter's results, you can see that there's been a bit of a decline, turning a profit of $600 million. We'll be talking to Gary about why the direct expenses to sales revenue has increased, which suggests to me that they're paying out a little bit more. But what I like is that despite the pandemic, they're still growing their top line revenues, growing it from $10.1 billion last year to $10.7 billion this year, first quarter. So that's 6% growth in the midst of a pandemic, which I think is pretty impressive. And I really believe that this stock's going to blow up as they continue to build out the business. Next slide. Gary mentioned it, so they're much more than a company that just sells cash bot. You can see, look at the revenues by segment and what they call here PIN codes, which represents about 30% of the business, as Gary mentioned, represents their sales of telephone top-up credit. So again, selling that through about 1,500 outlets. It's 30% of their revenues. I'll be asking Gary a question about that. I believe they have a competitive advantage in the way they sell those that top-up credit. But again, when you think of SVL, don't just think gambling, lottery, racetrack. 30% of their revenues comes from selling e-pins or phone credit. And then on the final slide, I'd like to look at how the business has performed on a quarterly basis. And again, in the last 12 months, consider that they had a COVID quarter where their revenues were down at $192 million. But for that quarter, if you look at the last 2 years, you don't see a quarter coming out of SVL where they do less than $525 million. So that quarter was down by about $400 million. And yet, on a 12-month trailing basis, their earnings are still comparable to the previous 12-month trailing earnings at about $2.4 billion. So again, took a hit in the first quarter after the pandemic. That's the June quarter. And you can see how they've bounced back really strong. And in fact, in their fourth quarter, having the highest ever quarter results that I have seen in my 4 years of looking at SVL, with $836 million of profit. And we'll definitely be asking Gary how they did that. So I think at $17, this is a stock that you want to buy. We're going to come back in 12 months' time and talk about it again. You're going to see that this stock will be at least $25, or I would have gotten it very wrong. It's a stock I really like. So first question, Mr. Peart. Despite being in the midst of a pandemic, SVL reported record-breaking revenue of $10.7 billion in its first quarter. What was the driving force behind this performance?
The number one driver is teamwork. Certainly since I've taken on the post as executive chairman, we have focused a lot on execution. And as you know, the pandemic has created significant challenges right across the business, not just the business, but Jamaica as a whole. And we've had to sit and reimagine our business because of COVID. And it's one thing to reimagine, new products, new activity to create revenue. It's another thing to actually execute it. And I have to take my hat off to the team, Jesus, Lisa Marie, David Green from IGT, Heather, Dennis Chung, Stefan, Miriam Miggs, Catherine Spencer. They have just been phenomenal. Solomon Sharp, Lorna Gooden, out at Kim Manners, Preston Chin. I mean, they have done a very, very good job of executing. And these record results that we saw in the last quarter have continued. And even though we've been hit again by a second wave of COVID, given the impact of the pandemic, the outturn for the first quarter, I personally think it's just been phenomenal.
Great, thanks for that. Next question is for Solomon. Solomon, what's happening down at Caymanas? How are you guys managing through the pandemic, and what can we expect over the next year from you guys?
Well, at Caymanas, the pandemic has thrown everything at us. So we decided not to cower down. They gave us lemons, and we made some really good lemonade out of it. COVID really taught us a lot about the business, and we really did some deep diving. We went on a very aggressive digitization program and taking a product that was 60 years old and breaking it down segment by segment to really create value. It's a huge horse racing industry in Jamaica. We're the leader in the Caribbean. We've lost a lot of talent, overseas. The grooms go overseas and the jockeys. Several trainers have done very well. The Rowan Crichtons would have gone to Gulfstream Park West and won a championship. So we had to look and say, okay, there's a lot of magic that existed over at the track, but it was just not being mined in the right way. Mm-hmm. So we went back to the basics. As I said, went on a digitization program, streamlined the whole process. We moved the racing from traditional Wednesday, Saturday to Saturday, Sunday, and it paid better dividends, so to speak. We have a tough group over there that wants more. But for you to be able to give more in purses and all of these kind of things, you have to have a strong, sustainable structure, a strong, sustainable business. And, we went on several forums and we have pretty much delivered all of what we said that we would. And we're on a great trajectory to make Caymanas Park be a real destination for the Caribbean, keep it afloat while the pandemic is going on. And we hope that we're at the endemic stage. So as soon as we're able to have fans, the Kentucky Derby just had 50,000 people. Wow. So once we're able to have fans, we're getting the place in tip-top condition for it to be a real global destination, not just Caribbean or for people in Jamaica. We've looked at it being a real attraction. A lot of people in Jamaica have still never been out to the track. So because of all the publicity, people reach out to me on social media. I've never been to the track, and I'm saying to them, hey, as soon as you're ready, we're ready to host you. So there's a lot of magic out there, and we just move some things around. It was that simple, and we've kept it afloat, and it's a very important industry in Jamaica. There's a lot of lives and livelihoods, and when you deal with the back end, so there's the horses galloping. And the immediate people there, the grooms, the jockeys, the trainers that make their livelihoods, the owners have made their investment. So we have to, help them to see some fun and some return on their investment. But there's a bigger ecosystem outside. One horse feeds almost 100 persons out there. Wow. The people in the OTB sector, and it's right across the island, not just at the stud farms where you deal with the physical animal, but you deal with the OTBs, and we have 125 plus OTBs. They run 363 days a year. We start early in the morning selling English betting, and we go as late as night as the curfew or whatever allows us. So each OTB can have up to 10 staff members, and when you start to say that, it's hundreds of thousands of persons that benefit from this industry, and so it was very important for us to do all the right work to keep it up and running in the pandemic. And it seemed like a daunting task at first, But, we have good leadership at the top at SVL. We have some really great guys out there, and we had some committed stakeholders. So we all put it together, and here we are. We keep rolling, we get thrown that we have to have Saturday curfew at 4 o'clock. Well, we came up with a breakfast cup, and we started racing at 9:15, and our patrons really rallied around us and really appreciate. They're enjoying their racing. To date, we've paid out over $1 billion. I'm upset with Gary. He didn't put up the Reggae 6 product. That has been fantastic. We've been creating millionaires upon millionaires. On Saturday, we almost had 3 millionaires, $700 and something thousand. Okay, they're $300,000 short, but hey, that's not so bad. But even for the Reggae 6, for the first 3 months of this year, we've paid out over $100 million. So we're really identifying where the sweet spots were, where the value was. We're giving back more value to the punters. They want more, they want lesser takeouts, but it's a gradual progression, and we're fixing it as we go along. And we're making sure that the industry stays afloat, and we have some really great plans for the future.
Excellent. Speaking about plans for the future, I heard about you guys getting into partnership with Chukka Adventures, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me a little bit about that. What's your thoughts there?
So ideally, with everything, it's all very aggressive. We sat down, we looked at a partnership with Chukka, but the pandemic,
right.
turned a curveball on us and all that kind of thing. So that is still in the pipeline.
But the thinking is to bring tourists to the track?
The thing is, yes. Think about it. From Montego Bay to Kingston, right, on an easy drive is 3 hours, right? And anywhere in Florida, you go from A to B, that's 3 hours, right? So the tourists, and we have a beautiful view. We have several different things for them to do to and from. So we want to bring them from the different hotels there. We just announced we're running a race this weekend called the Kingston, and last weekend we ran a race called the Portmore. So what we're doing, we're embracing Jamaica, and we've already expanded to about 20-something markets that we're touching, real hotbed markets in North America that we're touching. So we're expanding our product, we're sensitizing them to the Portmore, the Kingston. Then we're going to go and, we'll eventually have the Montego Bay, get the hoteliers involved, and then we're going to bring tourists there. But there's not just the tourists from overseas, because there's staycation tourists. There's a big diaspora market that are dying to come home, that have not been able to be home in 2 years because of the pandemic. So when these guys come home, we're gonna really put on a real big show for them, and make things exciting. There's a big screen that's about to be installed in the next 3 months at the track, and I'm told that there's some other little surprises around that of how we build out the attraction and different things for you to do when you're at the track. So we hosted a little mock breakfast last week, and 6 persons came out there, and they were like, had a great time, and so they were eating breakfast, and then they kind of looked up and says, can we bet? I was like, sure you can bet. So it shows you that this product has a lot more scope for growth, and we're making baby steps in making sure that everybody stays safe, but that we're ready for this big boom when this is all over.
Well, if they can host champs, I'd like to think we can start thinking about going back out. So
they definitely can host champs, and we have done very well and very safe at the track.
Yes.
We have a 200-acre property. So when you look at the amount of persons there, and we only have 1,000 persons on, our distribution channels have done well for us. We incorporated MBET. We have developed a better relationship with our stakeholder OTBs. So nobody has to come to the track anymore. You can bet online. You can pop into the OTBs and the North American market. So we are in Canada with Woodbine and their digital distribution all up and down Canada. We're in the 3rd largest ADW, which is advanced deposit wagering, which is again online betting, which is through ExpressBet, and they have tracks like Gulfstream and Santa Anita, so they have a big following. Then the next one is the biggest market in America is New York, which is Naira. And the guys from Naira wanted to have Jamaica Day at Aqueduct, and because I said the Jamaican fan base there is incredible. Again, the pandemic kind of slowed that down. So there's a whole host of things in the pipeline. In December, we signed on a bet with our good friends, hey guys, from Bet Makers, to take Caymanas globally from a fixed odds point of view. And we want to get more involved with them because in Bet Makers, they're a technology group that comes in and really helps you on your back end, helps you drive your revenues. So we're just waiting on some approvals from the regulators. So as soon as that's up, we're going to be sending Caymanas further afield, and they're very strong, obviously in Australia and in the oceanic market and Europe and all that kind of thing. So some big things.
No, I appreciate it. Sounds like Caymanas to the world. I love it. Gary, speaking about Caymanas to the world, how fruitful has SVL's groundbreaking partnership in South Africa been thus far?
Well, it is still in the infancy. The main reason is that South Africa, as you know, has been hit very hard by COVID and also a dangerous strain of COVID. And so a lot of the plans that we had for South Africa, we've had to put on pause for the time being. But when we look at what happened in South Africa, in a sense, you kind of have to give credit to the Jamaican government and how they've been managing certain aspects of COVID. Because you have countries where the entire gaming sector is shut down. We're happy at SVL that we're able to operate even with reduced hours based on curfew. And even in the case of Caymanas, one of the things we treasure most about Caymanas is that they're allowed to have a certain amount of spectators there. They've been, the example that Caymanas and the team have set to continue to have those spectators is based on the COVID protocols that have been designed specifically for Caymanas, and they've been maintaining them. And you have to thank the trainers, the gurus, the farriers, everybody at Caymanas who's been able to ensure that we keep that aspect of it. But we're still very excited about South Africa, and we believe that as the market opens back in South Africa, we will definitely make the gains that we expect from that venture.
Thanks, appreciate that. How has the introduction of the new lottery entrant to the market impacted SVL's customer base or market share?
I genuinely can't answer that question because I really don't focus on them. I focus on my business. But, ultimately I could direct the question back to you from the perspective of we have seen a 30% increase in our revenues. We have seen additional retailers coming on board. We've seen sports betting do well. We've seen record revenues at Caymanas. So we're very busy at SVL focusing on SVL. And we genuinely don't know what's really happening with them. But what I can tell you is that we continue to do good things. For example, there are a lot of things, and the reason I started with my presentation, to give people an idea of the pedigree of the business you're dealing with. We're constantly innovating. So we have different promotions that we put into the marketplace that our customers just love. And, in the last quarter, we did a lot of new initiatives and they've really enjoyed it. One of the things I don't think the average person knows is that research shows that the new and upcoming customer is more interested in a game of skill. And it's one of the reasons we went and made investments in post-to-post, and we've been making other investments in just bet. And we're pleased in the first quarter where you saw that the sports betting segment really outperformed. And when you look internationally, the research shows that sports betting is growing at a faster pace than lottery. So SVL had seen that trend from before, and we took the positive step of trying to ensure that, not trying, we succeeded in having as wide as possible a business in the sports betting sector. And we've seen that. We continue to defend the lottery position. But whilst we're doing that, this is the beauty of the diversification of the group. Because if revenues pull back in one segment, we have another segment that will outperform. And as I said, the first quarter really demonstrated that, where we saw a significant upturn on the sports betting side.
That makes sense to me. I guess that's why the sales for the first quarter are up by 6%. Chairman Berry, you have any questions for either Chris or Solo?
Yes, I have a question. You know, I've been actively following the stock market now for 35 years. And it's really a dual question. I saw my friend Solomon Sharp selling 10% of his company to Mr. Gary Peart at SVL. And I've been asking Mr. Sharp to sell me these shares for years. And he keeps telling me, no, he can't sell me. And then he goes behind my back and sell the damn shares to Gary Peart. So I want to know from the two of them, what's going on here with this share trading behind my back? What's going on?
I think the answer is pretty simple, Mr. Berry. You know, Solomon is more in love with SVL than he is with you. But I think my view is that timing is everything. And, you know, working with Solomon as chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, which is the company that manages the leagues at Caymanas, we have a very good working relationship. And as you probably know, we have successfully completed the first phase of the Caymanas investment. And that first phase is that we had to find a way to ensure that Caymanas could have been sustainable financially. And there are many reasons to achieve that. One, obviously, the company continued to make losses. Ultimately, SVL would have had to make an impairment in that business. Now that the company is sustainable financially, one of the benefits that SVL is going to get, especially for this year, is that all of the prior losses, we're going to be allowed to set up a deferred tax asset, which ultimately will reduce the effective tax of SVL. So what that means is that more of the profit will go to the net profit line. So after Solomon's team, especially Lauren out at Caymanas, were able to achieve that, which is just phenomenal, because one of the things people don't realize is that for the first quarter of 2021, Caymanas recorded record revenues, one of the highest revenues they've ever had in their history, which shows that the betting market is vibrant and continues to improve. So what we're seeing on SVL is that we have record revenue in lottery, record revenue in sports betting, and record revenue out at Caymanas. So upon concluding phase one, as the company's called, it's a racing and entertainment. So SVL was faced with a position, you know, do we go out and try and create our own entertainment business, or do we try and partner with the best in the business, which is what Main Event is? And, you know, luckily and happily, we're able to convince the team at SVL to look at what we were saying. They were happy with it. And one of the things that's going to come out of this acquisition of 10% is that SVL and Main Event have an understanding that we will form a production company. It will be owned 50% each, SVL and Main Event. And that production company, we believe, is going to take advantage of huge potential in the marketplace. There's some other things that we'll be doing, but in due course, you'll see it. I want to turn over to Solomon for him to add to the little that I've said.
Don't worry, Chris. I still like you. But it's all about timing and, you know, seeing the right synergies and all that kind of thing. I know we had several conversations about where the entertainment sector was going to be and, you know, what we wanted to do. I mean, that sale to you was eventually going to come. So it may have come in a different way. But when we read this pandemic and we study what is going on globally and we see all the experiments going on, the Kentucky Derby just had 50,000 people. Different markets are running experiments with having concerts, you know, with and without vaccine patronage, and whether people had a positive test or not. Mm-hmm. So we think that the way Jamaica is poised and the amount of hotel rooms that have been built, and you know, Gary's letting the secret out of the bag with the production company. Yes. We think that there's great potential for Jamaica to see the entertainment values. And, you know, I didn't really speak too much earlier about the entertainment element over at the track, but it is a really entertaining day. But with 196 acres, right, there are some nice entertainment spots that we have already identified, mm-hmm. that will be created And once we're allowed to have, because we actually have an in-field experience that we have been approved for with the COVID protocols, but we decided to back it off a little bit and play it safe and keep smaller numbers, keep everything safe, keep everything just moving along. But we can execute that whole in-field experience. It might happen by the Guineas next month, it might happen by the St. Ledger, or even by Jamaica Day for Independence. By that time, when the read we have is that the country will be, more persons would have received the vaccine. We hear America is ready to send out 60 million vials of AstraZeneca and all of these kind of things. So when Destination Jamaica, Destination Caymanas, when this thing is all over, Destination Caymanas Park, Destination Jamaica will be ready, and the new production company will be ready, and we already have some things in the pipeline. And for those of you who know, I do things at a very large level, as big as me, so I know how to scale it up. And when you think of the relationship with SVL, it's so easy. It's a no-brainer. It's one of the biggest consumer brands in the country. They deal with big numbers. My other partners, I deal with every client in the past as a partner, and some of my other partner clients have never really wanted to take this opportunity. They use my business to look good, but I think SVL identified a real opportunity to make this thing bigger and to really potentially even look down in the Caribbean.
I like it. I can definitely see the synergies. Gary, tell me, what has been the reaction of the marketplace in response to the new Super Sellers program?
It has actually been amazing. And, again, I have to give credit to the team at SPL and their ability to innovate, design, and launch Super Sellers. So one of the things that where we are as a business is traditionally our main distribution point were retailers, one of a better word, fixed locations. As we continue to innovate and we're moving into the digital divide, we have found new channels and we've started rolling out new channels of distribution. So the super sellers is where you have an individual with a phone and they're able to sell you a lottery ticket anywhere you are. So it increases the convenience for the consumer, and that's what consumers are looking for. So it has done very, very well. It's one of the new channels that has worked well. We also launched SE Games, where you can buy our products on the convenience of your telephone, your mobile device, and that is doing pretty well as well. So, as we go forward, one of the things that we have to manage is how do we manage the different channels for the distribution of our products? Because ultimately, as the executive chairman, I'm focused on the channel that drives the greatest profit. So if you stop and think about it, a fixed location costs us 5% in commission. Super seller is less than 5%. SE Game is significantly less than both of those combined. So it is not that you want to choose one over the other, but if you have a lot of your business that's being distributed via, for example, online and mobile, your yield is going to be significantly greater. So we continue, and again, it's something that the customers have asked for over the years, and whatever we can do to make the experience more convenient, the better it is. I have a security guard friend who everybody's number is secret to them, so if he can't buy his number, he's worried that when he sends somebody to buy it, they might steal his number. And he has just loved the super seller because the super seller can come to him, he can deal with it directly. He doesn't have to leave his security post to go and run to buy a ticket to come back. So we've gotten very, very good reviews, and we continue to systematically build out that super seller for us.
Great, appreciate that. On to the next question here. SVL entered the microfinancing sector by acquiring a majority stake in microlender Microfinancing Financials. How does this microlender fit into SVL's strategy?
Again, SVL has one of the biggest brands in the country. I mean, the Cashpot brand is huge. We have several other brands. And that brand serves the average Jamaican. And we've seen where that average Jamaican, their access to credit is not where it should be. And so we believe that this is an opportunity to continue to leverage our network and allow people within the network, not just retailers, but ultimately our customers, to gain access to microcredit. So Michaela was currently the microfinance sector is dominated by businesses like Michaela. So we wanted to have our foot in that, as I indicated before, Evolve, which is totally automated, totally digital, as an AI that works on your credit score. So, nobody's ever done that. And so we have a two-pronged strategy, which ultimately brings credit to what people call the unbanked. But we feel that the opportunity we have at SVL is that we can lift the common Jamaican to achieve and buy things that would not necessarily be available to them. And we think that they can do that whilst buying their lottery, whilst buying phone top-ups, etc. And ultimately, with Mayberry, we'll give them something to celebrate about while they're doing it.
So can we look forward to some kind of loyalty program where when I buy this and I want to borrow money or whatever, eventually, do you imagine SVL playing in that space, the digital space, tying it into the financing and stuff like that?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, we have a platform that we'll continue to invest in, and ultimately, we want everybody to experience what we call a Supreme life. And ultimately, whatever service you want, we believe Supreme Adventures will be able to offer you that service. But it's a work in progress. It's a lot of different moving parts. It's going to be a function of execution by the team. They've done well so far, but we have a long journey that we have to continue. And remember, we are now in Guyana and maybe in the future, maybe in other countries. And so all of these things we can carry to different locations, different Caribbean islands, and ultimately Latin and South America. So as we perfect it, it's a way of the future. Digital is a way of the future. And we're busy trying to ensure that Supreme Ventures will be the group of companies that will be on the lips of certainly every Jamaican, if not every Caribbean person.
I like the sound of it. Chairman Berry, you have any more questions for Chris or for Solo?
Gary or for Solo?
For Gary or for Solo? Yes, you can't question yourself.
I've seen him make a lot of presentations about SVL, but I've never seen him focus so much on innovation. I'm wondering if there's someone that was mashing his corn on innovation.
No, but the fact of the matter is that if you're not moving and changing, you're going to die. SVL, as I've always said, SVL is one of the few companies in the country right now that has significant opportunities. The challenge we face at SVL is to ensure that we can exploit all of those opportunities. Every day my phone rings with a different opportunity, and the question is, how do we leverage the network? And one of the things is that I have to give a big shout out to our retail network. I mean, those guys, those owners, those small entrepreneurs, they've just been phenomenal. And they're one of the main platforms that we use to ensure that we provide the service that our customers want. So at the same time, they have a percentage commission, and they always want to see that commission increase. And I mean, I can tell you for the first quarter, they were very, very happy. But we have to continue to push services and products through that network so that they can build as well. And ultimately, where we want to go with the business is that, any micro entrepreneur that wants to start a business, he then want to join the SVL family. Because that's how you'll be able to generate a really decent and sustainable income.
Appreciate that. Chairman Berry, I want to ask you a question. What do you really like about SVL? I gather through MGE you own a few shares yourself. What's it that you really like about SVL, and why do you think folks should be running to buy that stock? Chairman Berry.
Oh, what do I like about SVL? So SVL is like a transaction company that is the only company I know that can really make a profit out of a $10 bet. They're very, very efficient, and they have a huge base of regular Jamaicans as customers. And so our plan is over the next few years to really leverage this customer base and to really help these people to do different things in Jamaica that they're not doing so well at. That's really the vision of the company right now. But I have a question for Gary before we go, and I know that I'm on the foundation of SVL board, and I know that in the pandemic, because of all the problem with kids not going to school, we partnered with Edufocal to make PEP preparation available online for 5,000 primary school kids who normally wouldn't have access to this type of service. So I want to ask Chairman Peart, how is that going? And can we expect more from SVL in terms of the giving back?
Well, the answer to your question is that has gone very well. Whilst SVL strives to make a profit, social responsibility is paramount in our minds. So in addition to what we've been able to do with Edufocal and the kids, which, any platform that allows them to learn in this pandemic is key. We continue to do other things. Recently, we just donated a portable ultrasound machine to the ICU, to the COVID ICU of University Hospital in West Indies. And, that was a massive donation. And the beauty about that is, they no longer have to move people from the ICU to take a 20-30 minute trek to another section of the hospital to do the ultrasound. This machine will be able to move around the ICU, and it significantly will increase their efficiency, and obviously will save a lot of lives. We're constantly seeking different ways in which to give back, especially in this pandemic. And as I said, it's foremost in our mind. As a matter of fact, an area that we're very excited about is our Supreme Ventures Hub. So what we've done is we have a back office, meaning accounts, finance, etc., that we're now making available to small and medium-sized businesses. And we've already started to get clients on board. And this allows these companies, the entrepreneurs in these companies, to focus on generating sales. And you can hook up with the SVL Hub, and we'll take care of all of your back office stuff. And we work in the cloud, so capacity is not an issue. Dennis Strong, our CEO there, is doing a yeoman's effort along with Chantal, who's a point person on that. So that's one of the mantras of the business, Chris. We are here to make Jamaica better. Supreme does not exist without Jamaica. So for Supreme to exist, we have to continue to make Jamaica better. And we focus on the poor and disadvantaged, and we'll do everything in our power to move them up to the next level.
Great. What is SVL's rationale for acquiring? We did that one actually. But I'd like it in the context of, so what was SVL's rationale for acquiring 10% of main event, and will we see an increase in events like the Diamond Mile Solo? So I'm more interested in the events.
You're going to see something bigger than the Diamond Mile come this last quarter. We've been managing everything. We want to have a big Derby Day on August 6th, which is, our Independence Day. I was asked a question last night, what if the Prime Minister doesn't allow something on a public holiday? Well, we'll just have to dance around and pivot again. But we hope that by the last quarter, we'll be able to have, big events. And we have something very special for the horse racing public, and especially the stakeholders. We're going to give them a treat in the last quarter, and we're going to make things, big things happen. Gary did hint at about a 50-50 production company. And that's not just for the 196 acres that exist at Caymanas Park. Yes, we're going to do some big things there. We're going to create some real value for the people in Portmore, but then we're going to go further afield, maybe entire length and breadth of Jamaica. But Main Event's mission is we're the region's #1 brand. We want to be the region's #1 brand in delivering phenomenal experiences. And by the region, we're not just thinking of the Caribbean. We want to go further afield. And when you listen to these guys talk, and you know that there's a real vision, and they don't just talk, they execute what they said they're going to do. Gary gave a little hint earlier that we might be in other Caribbean territories. So that's what this is all about. We're going to grow this thing, and we're going to go it through the Caribbean. And with a team like Main Event and SVL, you flick that switch and things happen overnight. And we'll make Jamaica supreme, we'll make the Caribbean supreme, and who knows, we're going to go further afield. We're waiting on South Africa to get well so we can execute on a number of things. And there's some other little secrets in the pipeline that I'm not allowed to divulge.
Well, we're going to have you back to talk about Main Event, no doubt about that. On to our social media questions. We have 2 or 3. I think we're a little tight for time, but let's squeeze in 2 if we can. Phillips Burgess asks, is a separate listing or spin-off of SVRL a part of the growth plans for SVL, Gary?
The answer to that question is yes. SVL believes that Caymanas should be owned by stakeholders. We believe as a promoter, we're one of the largest stakeholders. But I think ultimately for you, one of the things when we went to Caymanas, that has been central in our thrust is harmony. And there are a lot of changes that have occurred. As I said, Solomon and Lorna have done very, very well. Ultimately, we want to see a situation where, the horse owners, the jockeys, the grooms, etc., can own a part of Caymanas, But the government is a big player in that decision, because remember, SVRL owns a lease at Caymanas. We don't own Caymanas, So we're in constant conversation with the government representatives. Certainly, the CTL oversight body, which is chaired by Daniel Walker. We've had some very interesting conversations. And if you remember earlier, I spoke about phase 1. A part of the agreement that we have called for an investment of $500 million over 5 years. We're in year 3 now, and based on our calculations, we have exceeded $2 billion in investments. So we have more than delivered from our part. I think as we continue to build out the business of racing and entertainment, because this is actually, this is actually the next phase that we're moving into. We want to exploit and leverage the entertainment side of the business, because ultimately, at 196 acres, is the largest green space in Portmore, and potentially between Portmore and Kingston. So there's significant opportunities there. And as I said, I've told Solomon he can't speak about them, so I can't turn around and talk about them as well. But I think as we wrap our heads around it, ultimately, when everything comes into focus, i.e., the government will see a plan that we put forward, which will include all the stakeholders. I do believe an IPO would make sense at that point in time.
Thanks for that, Jerry. Appreciate that. Next one from social media is for Solo. It comes from Chester Francis Jackson, who asks, in light of the current improvements being undertaken at Caymanas, will this facilitate multimodal usage, say, for example, for polo?
Well, I did kind of let some of it out the bag.
Yes.
So when you look at it, we want to, budget permitting, we want to build an infield grass track. Even after you build that infield grass track, we can have 2 polo fields. So what do we do with this facility? How do we make it fun? How do we make it fun for everybody? How do we make it a family atmosphere? So when you look at the stands, is there any more space there for expansion, right? And what is the cost of that expansion? Gary just spoke about that green space. So use that infield and you create a polo field there, instead of a Sunday race meet, you'll be having polo games and all of these kind of things. We've kind of just done a little bit of lights on the backstretch. So everybody's like getting excited, thinking there's night racing coming. That's probably down the line when we get certain other things lined up, but definitely polo and other entertainment events will be a factor at Caymanas Park going forward.
Excellent. Well, you heard it first here, folks.
The one thing, sorry, Dan, the one thing I would add to that, when you look at successful racetracks, of which there are not many, you will find that entertainment activity and rental of green space, in some instances, represent as much as 30 to 40% of the revenues of those tracks. Right now, we're not there, and also the fact of the matter is that there are other activities, and for a better word, revenue generating activities that's not related to racing that can happen, you know. And as I said, I saw Solomon about to say it, and I'm about to say it, and I will say it. But the potential for Caymanas is huge. And as I said, we're moving into phase 2 where we're seeking to exploit that potential. And I think the city of Portmore and the people in Kingston will find that Caymanas in a year or two will be the destination to be.
Thanks for that, Gary. Appreciate that. Okay, I'd like to congratulate our winners from our Instagram giveaway, courtesy of Supreme Ventures today, and they'll be getting a very special gift. I think it's some Appleton or something like that. And the 5 names are shown there. I always struggle with these. D. Mellis 14, Chowda 9, Matthew Press, Celebrate with Props, and Exquisite Sense. Congratulations, guys. Great, moving on to our market segment. We'll move on to our top stocks for the day. Good deal, and my top stock pick for today is really a throwback. It's Fosterage Company Limited. If you guys remember, we had CEO Cecil Foster here in February when we gave a nice review of Fosterage. The stock price back then was $4.23. Go back and check the tape if you doubt me. In February, just 2.5 months ago. Today that stock price is up 78% at $8.23, and Fosterage continues to grow. I think at $8.23 I'd call this one a hold, but it's definitely a company that's going places. On the next slide, you will see what I'm saying. In the last quarter, you can see the growth in profitability of 697%. That's a $38 million profit in this last quarter compared to $4.8 million last year. So last year, they felt a little pinch of the pandemic. They invested about $30 million in people cost, and they talked about hiring 2-3 new key staff to try to grow the business. And 1 year later, they've grown sales by $100 million or 22%. And you see that flowing in a significant way down to the bottom line. So we really think Fosterage is going places, and that we're going to see this profitability continuing to increase. And so this is definitely a good one. And if you bought it at $4.23, you're welcome. You're now up 78%. Next slide shows the quarterly performance. And again, it captures that one bad quarter that they had with $4.8 million. Again, they invested $30 million in admin costs to add team members. The growth has just been phenomenal since this last quarter here, now being $38 million. So that's my top stock pick reference of the week. Moving on to our gainers and decliners, folks. The top decliners for this week are Rock, SOS, SSLVC down 10.77%, Lumber Depot down 6.64%, that will change next week, and MTL down 5%, Margarita Turks Limited. The gainers for this week are ISP Finance up 20%, Main Event up 16.4%, did you expect that, Salah? eFresh up 9.71%, Lastly, up 9.33%, and last but not least, Jetcon up 8%. Moving on to our foreign exchange segment. As usual, this slide shows what's happened over the last 4 years, and this is the 2.7% annual devaluation rate. And the next slide shows that that path hasn't been a straight path. You'll see the next graph shows how we've had some peaks and troughs. On the next graph, we show the peaks and troughs in that exchange rate movement in the last 6 months with a high of 155. And today, on the last slide, we'll see where the exchange rate is at roughly 153.27. I suspect that's as of the 4th of May. That's a 7.45% devaluation year to date. If you were to extrapolate that, which I don't suggest we do, it would be 22% on an annualized basis. But long and short is the dollar's been under a little pressure, Gary, in the last 2-3 weeks. You have any thoughts or expectations over the next 2-3 months? You did mention earlier about when the dollar is down because folks are using money for taxes and tax season. We're outside of tax season. It looks like the demand is coming back up and we see the exchange rate devaluing a little bit. But Gary, what are your thoughts and insight on what's going on with the exchange rate and what we can expect?
Again, I'm not surprised at what's happening. As I've said on previous shows, the dollar was revaluing, I think, primarily because of the taxes and the tight liquidity in the marketplace. I think once we passed the tax season, it culminated with, I think, the announcement by the BOJ that banks could, pay dividends. And I think a lot of people, mainly holders of capital, started to chase the dollar. And I think that's the reason the dollar traded as high as 155. But I think once those portfolios have converted, we are now seeing the demand kind of dissipating, and we're now seeing the dollar revalue again. So we're seeing it peak at 155, 156, and it's now down in the 152, 153 region. And if I'm a betting man, I would think it's gonna approach 150, maybe a little bit below 150 in the coming weeks. But again, it's a demand and supply game. And as I've always said on this program, the days of just having an accountant is over. You need somebody that understands finance and understands what's happening in the market. It's going to be the difference between a high-performing business and a low one, because you don't want to be buying dollars at 155 and then a month later it's 142, 143, etc. So you have to get a better understanding of the FX market. But in concluding, I think we're in a revaluing mode now because the market again is very tight for J dollars. And so coupled with the lack of demand and the tightness in Jamaican dollars, I wouldn't be surprised if you see the dollar continue floating down to the 150 region.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that, and I'm inclined to agree. Well, folks, it's been a great program. So to our viewers, thank you all for being a part of our weekly Investor Forum. I'd like to thank special guests, Mr. Gary Parrott and, of course, Solomon Sharp, for participating in today's investor briefing. And to show our appreciation, we'll be presenting you with a token courtesy of Appleton Estate Rum. We're certainly looking forward to having yet another insightful discussion in the coming week. We'll be featuring Major Noel Dawes, Managing Director of Lumber Depot. Be sure to follow us on social media and stay up to date with our live streams. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in today. Keep safe, folks. And remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.
In Jamaica, we're very serious about two things: living joyfully and striving for excellence. There are many examples of Jamaican excellence. Our athletes and musicians are some of the finest in the world. And above all, Appleton Estate. Crafted with joy.
The games you love to play just got easier with Supreme Games mobile app. Download and play just like that. Total privacy, you've got more opportunities to win with the mobile app. Play anytime, so have fun non-stop. The more you play, the more you experience your favorite games in new convenience. You can play your way, so you win your way. With your app, nothing's in your way.
The Supreme Games app, now with great new features. Click, register and play today at supremegames.com. Please game responsibly. Conditions apply.